That's the point. So, you have to pray to Him in so many ways, in so many words, that He is the only refuge of the weak. He should give sufficient strength to remember Him always. Of course, sometimes the path is smooth, sometimes it is thorny, sometimes it is like an impassable mountain, but still, if one takes refuge in Him, He will lead him safely to Himself. So, all these things become easy to you if you cherish intense faith in the words of the Guru, your spiritual master, who initiates you into spiritual life. You will achieve everything. So, spiritual life starts from faith. Give yourself up to Him as a kitten gives itself up to its mother. Then He will look after you. He will help you. He will guide you. So, to lift the veil of Maya, self-surrender to God is the only way. Of course, there are lots of scriptures all over the world. Every day new books are coming, same ideas given in some other fashion, making a good get-up and show up. Number of scriptures, they all come, keep on coming, keep on coming. All those scriptures tell you in various ways to realize the truth. But the final word is self-surrender. You can be free from all worries only by surrendering yourself at the blessed feet of God. Worship, study, japa, meditation, austerities, all these are meant for leading you to take refuge in Him. You must develop that attitude of surrender. When one surrenders oneself sincerely, God just passes His hand of mercy over the supplicant and wipes away all his sins. Why a person is so much loaded with weaknesses? Because of the sins, because of the bad deeds. But by the power of the divine touch, one becomes sinless. Then and there. One touch is enough. That will completely purify you. It will rise you up. What is wanted is sincere love for Him and absolute surrender to Him. So as I said earlier, complete self-surrender is possible only when you are free from egotism. The most invulnerable enemy on your way. So you have to get rid of that ego. So the first person pronoun is at the root of all the miseries. Hence, your primary duty should be to get rid of it somehow or other. This can be done by the service of the great, by engaging yourself in good works. In the Sanskrit word, there is a beautiful word for that, kainkarya. Kainkarya. That is offering your humble service. That humbleness should be there when you do the work. That humbleness increases your devotion to God. Do it with all humbleness. Then you will see most wonderful results. So, place yourself at the feet of your Guru. Your egotism will gradually wear away by that very attitude of yours of a servant. Hanuman is considered the best devotee. In fact, Sri Ramachandra was supremely pleased by his most wonderful service. He was immensely pleased. Sri Ramachandra was the incarnation of Lord Vishnu. He was totally pleased by the service of Hanuman. Hanuman's whole mind was on Rama. He was so devoted and his whole mind was full of Rama. He could just cross over the ocean to get into Lanka just by repeating Rama's name. Whereas Lord Ramachandra himself, in order to cross the ocean, he had to build a bridge. The way how he behaved and served Sri Ramachandra from the beginning to the end was exemplary. And what's the reward? Sri Ramachandra called him, embraced him. Embraced him. When Sri Ramachandra, the Lord of the universe, embraced Hanuman, Hanuman felt ecstatic joy. He was in samadhi. What the yogis would get through their most difficult practice of disciplines, Hanuman got the same state of ecstasy, bliss, samadhi, just by serving the Lord. And he said, "O Lord, I am always happy as a servant of yours. I am yours. There is no I there. That I is yours." That is Hanuman. And how was his life? A great hero. A great brahmacharin. You must know that. Full of celibacy. Continence. No trace of lust in him at all. So, such is the character of Hanuman. And that is a model for us. People talk of service. They talk. At least better than keeping quiet. Let them talk. But if you practice what you say, how wonderful it is. Do this service. You are doing anyhow. Do it properly. Then you will have wonderful results. One of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna said, if a person actually places himself under the guidance of Sri Ramakrishna, he is sure at once to be saved by him. But very few, almost none, can do it, as everyone is more or less an egotist. That's all. Well, let us try to understand the spiritual ideas in a proper way. Let us practice them humbly, with a humble attitude. He is very quick to give whatever results are required. Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, they are the ocean of compassion. Karuna Sagara, Karuna Sindhu. Sindhu means ocean. Karuna means compassion. Ocean of compassion. So when you have surrendered yourself at their feet, you inherit all their kindness, all their compassion, and you will be saved from all dangers of worldly life. Sri Ramakrishna was answering many questions of the devotees. So his answers were in the form of spiritual instructions to all of us. They are so precious, so clear, and so practical. One of the devotees asked Sri Ramakrishna a question. Well, why does it take many people such a long time to realize God? It's a very good question. And Sri Ramakrishna answered in very clear terms why they are not able to realize God. Why it takes so much of time? What's the reason? Sri Ramakrishna points out that one doesn't feel restless for God unless one is finished with his enjoyments and duties. As long as the mind is occupied with external things, as long as you are aspiring for worldly type of activities, as long as your mind is more and more desirous of enjoying the world, its pleasures, its attractions, one cannot come near God. One cannot appreciate the presence of God. One doesn't feel the need of God. All this is because he has become involved, entangled too much in the world, in the name of performing duties, in the name of doing so many things. He is just lost in the world. That's why it takes long time for such people to turn their mind to God. But then, for such people, long time is required. It is necessary also. Sri Ramakrishna explains it by giving an analogy. Referring to a patient, the physician says, let a few days pass first, then a little medicine will do him good. So, there is no doubt about the truth. There is no doubt about the presence of God. Everything is there. Only thing is, it depends upon our aspirations. Do we really want to realize that Supreme God? If you do really want, then you must take necessary practical steps, and every moment of your life is very precious. You can't waste even a moment any longer. So, the inner urge has to come strongly. It has to come strongly. Then only you will be able to act upon properly, and he will be able to overcome all the obstacles in the life. Well, I told you it depends upon mainly your aspirations. Two aspirations are said in our holy scriptures, particularly from the point of view of Hindu concept. One is Abhyudaya. It's a beautiful Sanskrit word. Means prosperity. That is one aspiration. There is another aspiration, running parallel, as it were. That is Nishreyasa. Means spiritual illumination. Both of them are running parallel. Prosperity is one thing. Spiritual achievement is other. But whatever may be your aspirations, dharma is the basis of both. That's very important point. You should remember. Dharma. Prosperity that has not dharma as the basis, what happens to that prosperity? It crumbles down. It crumbles down sooner than feared due to internal hemorrhage, so to say. Without dharma as a basis, prosperity is no prosperity. Instead of saving you, it destroys you. Take for the example, the great nation, America. Really, it's remarkable in worldly prosperity. Nobody can question that. But leading where? This prosperity is leading the people where? They don't want religion. They don't want God. They don't want any code. They don't want any ethics. They don't want any character. They should do whatever they want. So you are seeing the dreadful effects of prosperity that is bereft of dharma. So, if the worldly prosperity is not directed or subordinated to and utilized for attaining spiritual illumination, it becomes self-destructive. So we should know that from prosperity, illumination is not a logical development. Though empty stomach is no good for religion. So you have to be aware about your aspiration. So you have to be assertive in what you want to achieve. If that is not set forth, then you are just walking, traveling aimlessly, reaching nowhere. Keep on running only. No rest, no peace. No peace, no joy. No joy, no happiness. Wherever you may go, you must know you will not get joy in that way. Not by going for a picnic you will get joy. What kind of joy you get? Cheap way of tasting joy. Spiritual joy is the real joy. Spiritual life is the real life. Spiritual illumination is the real achievement. So, you have to now decide very definitely you have to think very clearly about the success in life. Everybody wants to be success. Nobody likes to fail. But there are various factors in the stories of one's successes and failures in life. So one common factor is involved in every single case. That is the factor of willpower. Because the mind is dragged in different directions, the mind is made to lose its power and strength in different ways. It has come to the point it doesn't know what is meant by willpower. You simply talk of willpower, but you don't know how to assert yourself. It has lost its meaning. Just like we talk for everything God, God, without any meaning. So, the most sublime words have lost their meaning on account of our mind being totally lost in the worldly things. So, the degree of person's success in life is commensurate with the degree of willpower he has attained. How many people do really pay attention to that? So, developing the willpower is to be the most important fundamental issue of everyone's life. You will have to think how to strengthen, how to cultivate, how to develop properly your willpower. Then only it is possible to carry on your spiritual journey. Otherwise, you are simply moving round and round, going nowhere. Just you are moving, that's all. Just rotating yourself. Coming back and forth. Today you die, tomorrow you are born. Day after tomorrow die, again you are born. Go on, rotating yourself. Come and go, come and go. Unless you develop your willpower, how can you enter into spiritual life? Unless you have got strong determination, how can you get rid of 8 fetters which are binding you? Sri Ramakrishna has referred to these 8 fetters on which I have discussed a lot in my previous classes. Shame, hatred, fear, pride of caste, hesitation, and the desire to conceal. All these are fetters. They are binding the person firmly on the ground of the world. They won't allow you to think in any other way. Your whole mind is wrapped by these things. In that process, you have lost everything. No power at all. So, we have to concentrate upon what we should do. If you have to fight out the worldliness. Truth is simple. Practice is difficult. Because you have to strengthen yourselves for that. Do you think it is so easy to fight lust and greed, which constitute worldliness? It is not easy, but it is to be done. You are losing everything on account of these 2 factors, lust and greed. Sri Ramakrishna says again and again, in every page of the Gospel you find Kama Kanchan. Kama means lust, Kanchan means greed. Lust and greed. Well, as long as you are under the grip of the 3 gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, you are bound directly or indirectly. You are under the control of these 3 gunas. You are master only namesake. So you have to get beyond the control of these 3 gunas. That is spiritual life. You should not be bound either by sattva or by rajas or by tamas. Each guna plays its distinctive role in man's life. Each of these gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, they are very famous classification. It is described very well in the Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna. And Sri Ramakrishna also has referred to these 3 gunas very nicely in the Gospel. He compares these three, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, to robbers. All of these three are robbers. Their only purpose is to loot you, to loot whatever you have. Even if you have got $1 coin, it's all right. Give out that $1. Their only purpose is to loot. So, you have to get rid of these three robbers. And Sri Ramakrishna tells very fine stories how Tamas wants to kill a person, Rajas wants to bind a person, and Sattva is little helpful. It releases you. It wants to release you from bondage. All right, come along, you go this way. The Sattva will come towards the end of the forest and tells you, you go further, then you will reach your home. And the person said, well, you have been so helpful to me, why don't you come and have a little cup of tea in my room, in my home? I'll be happy to give refreshment. And the Sattva said, no, I can't come. Because the police is always watchful. They catch me. See? But Sattva is helpful. He will show you, this is the way you go. That's all. That means you have to give up that Sattva also. Get away beyond all these three. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Cut off these three, all the three. Become Triguna Tita. Go beyond the three gunas. Rise above yourself beyond the Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Then you will enjoy the spiritual illumination. So that requires spiritual practice, that requires strong determination, that requires constant holy company, that requires your constant vigil, that requires your one-pointed aspiration. Then it is possible. Anyway, if you know these things, at least you know your weakness, and so you are not sorry for that. I am not able to go because of these reasons, so let me try to correct these things. That's the way of life. So for many people, for 99.99% of people, life has not started. As I told you, life means spiritual life. The so-called life which all the people are living is just a shadow. That's all. Well, it's getting time. So develop willpower, which is very important. We have everything in us. Only you have to develop it. It's already there, but it is in a dormant state. Give attention to it. It grows, it develops. Then you will see the wonderful result. Reality. Sri Ramakrishna teaches most important spiritual methods for attaining the vision of God. That is the attainment of consciousness. When you see your consciousness, you become ecstatic, supremely blissful. Consciousness, it is called in Sanskrit Chit. Chidananda means consciousness and bliss. So, one attains that when one passes through spiritual exercises. Anyway, we have come into this world to fight. You can't say, I can't fight. You have to fight. Even though at times you feel you are weak, still you have to struggle. Still you have to fight. Fight to the last drop of your energy. So, Sri Ramakrishna tells very clearly that you should get rid of worldliness. You have to make a great sacrifice to have the greatest reward. The great sacrifice on your part is you should give up all that is worldly. You have to be definite about it. You have to be very definite about that idea. Anything that is worldly must be rejected. So mind is bound by the worldliness. The moment you assert your willpower to give up worldliness, then the mind is released from the bondage. So, it is this involvement in the world, involvement in the various types of pleasures and hankering after wealth. These are the obstacles on our way to see God. These constitute samsara. These pleasures and the hankering after the wealth make you come back and forth into this world. One may die, but one's desires are not dead. His lust for power, lust for wealth, lust for enjoyments, they are quite active. Even though the man is dead, he carries the impressions of these things along with him, again to be reborn, again to enjoy the things of the world. So, he is dead to be bound again. He is dead. People think he is released. No, he is not released. In order to get into bondage, he is dead. He is going from one cage to another cage, from one prison to another prison. He is not free. Death is not freedom. It's only a passing phase in your life. You have just left the body to take another body. You have just left one type of situation and environment to be born in another set and situation of life. That means you are not running away from the world. On the other hand, you are again and again coming into the mind is bound by the worldliness. You are bound to come again and again. So, you will have to fight, you will have to become strong, you will have to get rid of worldliness in order to realize God. So that's very important point. Sri Ramakrishna takes an example. Suppose a towel, a cloth is put in front of my face. Can you see my face? No. Why? Because the cloth hides my face. Because the cloth is there, you are not able to see my face. Though my face is there, visible, for the time being it is not visible to you as long as the cloth is hiding the face. So no sooner is the covering of lust and gold removed than one attains consciousness and bliss. So whatever God you are worshipping, you find that God is within your own heart. You find that your God is the God of all gods. You find that your God is pervading the whole universe. You feel, you become aware that the whole universe is full of God consciousness. You are enjoying that supreme bliss. So, Sri Ramakrishna tells you to fight. Don't be drowned in the name of performing the duties. Do your worldly duties with a part of your mind, but direct most of the mind to God. Just a little bit of the mind should be given to the worldly duties. Nothing more than that. Most part of your mind should be used towards realizing the truth. And Sri Ramakrishna said further that there should be much chanting of the divine name of the Lord. You must be consciously chanting, praying, worshipping. You must be constantly doing these things. They purify the atmosphere to such an extent. The atmosphere becomes very intense. So that is why the chapels are used for such intensified atmosphere. That's why we constantly hold bhajans, prayers, worships, singing bhajans, etc. so that the whole atmosphere in the chapel should be filled up with spiritual vibrations. Referring to one of the devotees, Sri Ramakrishna made a remark, a significant remark. He said, Keshab Chandra Sen, a Brahmo leader who was very famous during those times, he was fortunate enough to come in contact with Sri Ramakrishna. In that process, he was able to save himself from opposite forces acting on him. Referring to him, Sri Ramakrishna said he could not achieve very much because he wanted to satisfy both God and the world. That is, he had the desire to enjoy the world, at the same time he loved to have God. His mind was divided. Since he had both these aspirations in him, he could not achieve the desired result of realizing the truth. So it's very important from the beginning of your life to organize thinking, doing. Everything about your life should be properly done, should be properly monitored. You have to take certain steps if really you want to achieve the goal in this very life. At least you will know where you are. So, the one way of keeping grip on life is right thinking. Right thinking and deep thinking. Right thinking and deep thinking you will have to have. We admire free thinking. We admire that. Free thinking is good, but right thinking is better. When right thinking becomes deep thinking, it is excellent. So understand this properly. Without cultivating the habit of introspection, it is impossible to keep track of all the forces within us which are operating in our system. Without knowing the nature of these forces, you can't become their master. Then you are bound to be their slaves. How can you ever build up your character? As long as you remain a slave to these forces operating within you, how can you build up your character? Without a character, how can you have willpower? Without willpower, how can you proceed in spiritual life? So, it means you have to take all these steps to strengthen your willpower. Tragedies occur in the life. So many unpleasant things occur in our day-to-day life. But then think over them deeply and adjust yourself properly. Not to be drowned in the waters of tragedies, but to rise above. So, the way of spiritual life is the way of a person who is building up his strength. Strength is very much needed to fight the forces of the world. They come in different forms, in different ways. They keep on hitting you again and again. They keep on hitting you. Like arrows, they come and hit you. But if you are strong, though the arrows hit you, they fall back. They are dropped down. They won't go into your system because you are strong. So, we have to build up that strength of character, which is very important. Hold on to the divine name of God. Whatever form of God you worship, you are approaching the same God. Call by any name. It is just like three people wearing three different colored glasses. A person wearing a red glass sees an object as red. The person wearing yellow glass sees it as yellow. The other one wearing green glass sees the same object as green. But the person who wears a clear glass sees the object clearly. All of them are seeing the same object, but it depends upon how they are seeing. One is Christian way of looking God. Another is Hindu way of looking God. Third way is Jewish way of looking God. So many ways of looking. Same God. Same God. That's it. So if you know the truth, you'll be enjoying remarkable peace. You love everyone then. You don't have any dislike about a person who is following some other religion. No, you feel they are all your own dearest friends. That's why Holy Mother said, no one in this world is a stranger. The whole world is your own. But in order to realize God, it is important to follow one particular path so that you can reach the target without much distraction and obstruction. That's all. And once you realize the highest truth, then finally you will realize the beauty of God. Once you have the vision of God, then that God Himself will give you the illumination. Then you will be wonderful. So, let us try to build up our character and form spiritual life accordingly to immortality. Sri Ramakrishna, in the course of his teachings, said it is very essential to do spiritual sadhana with all earnestness. The purpose of spiritual sadhana is to purify the heart. Once the heart is purified, real love towards God grows. Love of God is very important in our spiritual pursuit. Sri Ramakrishna himself suggested that one can love God in any form one likes. what is needed is to focus wholeheartedly on the chosen ideal, both body and mind, heart and soul, everything should be dedicated to God. Whatever form you may worship, you are reaching the same God. So, that's why Sri Ramakrishna says, a general term, God is to be worshipped. He didn't say particular God. God is a general term, the supreme consciousness who is illuminating the whole creation, who is protecting the whole creation, who is monitoring the whole creation, whose power is manifested through the most beautiful nature, who shows his love and affection by supplying whatever the things we need. So, God is described as the embodiment of love. Prema Swarupa. That is the Sanskrit word. Prema Swarupa. God is nothing but love. So if you have to realize, if you have to have the supreme joy of God, it means you should approach Him through love. So, Sri Ramakrishna was hearing the music by the musicians. They were singing on the episodes of Lord Krishna's life. The love of the gopis towards Krishna is not at all sensuous. It is 100% spiritual. So, the gopis enjoyed the maximum bliss in the company of Sri Krishna. And Sri Krishna's divine attraction drew all these gopis into him. So, the love manifested by these gopis towards Lord Krishna appealed to Sri Ramakrishna very much. Whenever he would hear any song relating to Sri Krishna's life, in an instant he would go into ecstasy. He would become totally absorbed in the divine joy. Sri Ramakrishna himself explained how Sri Krishna gave the gopis of Vrindavan the taste of divine love. Taste. Once they tasted it, they didn't want to go anywhere else. So the boyhood days of Lord Krishna are very significant from the spiritual point of view. He attracted all the people of Vrindavan through his play of flute. Whenever the flute sound was coming out, all the people, particularly the women folk, would rush into the direction from where the flute music was coming. Even the animals would become alert. They would have soothing effect hearing the music of the flute. The music which was coming from Lord Krishna himself. That was the divine attraction. The visible manifestation of divine attraction you can find in the life of Sri Krishna. So, the gopis could not resist the force of his divine attraction. So, it was so forceful. The women, even though they engaged themselves in various forms of duties in their homes, they would drop everything and run. At that point of time, they were not afraid of anything. No threats could deviate them, could distract them from Krishna. Because Lord Krishna has already given them the fantastic taste of divine love. What happened? The result was their love for Krishna completely destroyed their attachment to worldly things. They were no more interested in whatever type of attractions or glamours the world would offer. They were not afraid of even criticism. They just didn't care for these things. Their only attention was on Krishna and Krishna alone. So, Sri Ramakrishna tells, if you are following the path of devotion, have that love. The love in its purest form, you can see in the Gopis episode. There was not the slightest trace of worldliness. It was the innate attraction of God for pure souls, as of the magnet for iron. So in Srimad Bhagavat, these fine aspects of Lord Krishna's play have been wonderfully described. This love is compared to the all-consuming love of a woman for her beloved. Before the onrush of that love, all barriers between man and God are swept away. When a person loves God in such way, he completely surrenders himself to his divine beloved. He comes very close to him through the power of attraction. The power of attraction stops only when the person is totally attracted towards him. That means the person completely absorbs himself, unifies himself in God. That's the final result of love. It doesn't want any identity to be left over, because he is totally free from ego. He doesn't want anything in this world because he has given himself only to God, and he is enjoying the immense beauty and joy in the presence of God. So what does he want? Nothing. So why should he have to have a separateness? Separateness means distance. Even if you are 5 yards away from me, that means you are separated by 5 yards. Why should that separation should be? That means to that extent your love is not complete. Still there is something, still there is some barrier. But once you have come attracted by the divine magnet, there is no question of your going back or resisting. Simply you are drawn totally and you get merged into him, finished. Just like the river, though it runs in a different way, following its own course, but when it nears the ocean, it can't do anything but merge in the ocean. It becomes part and parcel of ocean itself. So this love was exhibited in the purest form in the life of the gopis. So to understand the gopis' love of Krishna, one should have purified mind. With impure mind, you cannot understand the glory of that Sri Krishna's boyhood days. Because of the divine attraction, Radha, the foremost of the gopis, felt an indescribable longing for union with Sri Krishna. A moment's separation from Sri Krishna would rend her heart and soul. But then Krishna had to go to Mathura. He became the king of Mathura even as he was very young. But then he promised the gopis. What did he promise? He told them, all of you would have my divine vision whenever you concentrate on me in your hearts. Just concentrate on me, you will get me. I am not separate from you. You are not separate from me. So though I am in Mathura, I am with you always. Whenever you concentrate your attention on me, you will have my vision. So, the substance of all this is to love God is very important for one's fulfillment. But is it so easy to get that love? You must be prepared to do spiritual sadhana, by which you will get knowledge, you will get devotion, then your heart will overflow with love and sympathy for mankind. The power of divine attraction awakens your true love towards Him. Once that love is awakened, then you begin to love one and all. The more and more you consciously, sincerely love God, the more your mind will be established in tranquility and purity. Is it ever possible for you to know God by yourself? Is it possible for you to realize Him through your intellect? Can your intellect grasp Him? No. Then what's the way? Surrender yourself to Him. Only through surrender, only through love, only through yearning, only by taking refuge in Him, only being mad after Him, you will be able to know Him. So, through prayers, through regular meditations and practice of other spiritual disciplines, you will slowly develop the love of God. Then Sri Ramakrishna tells you, when you have taken the mantra of God, you must repeat the mantra with intense love. Suppose you are repeating 5 times. Each time you repeat wholeheartedly. Each time you repeat the name with full concentration. Then you will gradually filled with an ineffable bliss. But if your mind is preoccupied with sensuous things, you cannot have true love for God. If you cherish love towards divine mantra, then you need have no more worry. Whenever you repeat Lord's name, it means you are calling on Him. O Lord, please be gracious to reveal yourself to me. I am just remembering you with the object of seeing you, with the object of being with you, with the object of serving you, with the object of loving you. So, when you call upon God, when you repeat the mantra, repeat it with great love. With great love. That's very important. So consider God as your father. Consider Him as your mother, as your husband, as your friend, and all. Through all these approaches, you can cherish most wonderful love towards Him. See, we are not strangers to love. The moment we are born in this world, we have been tasting the love. How mother loves the child. How the child feels immensely joyful in the presence of the mother. So the life of the child starts with glory of love. Because mother gives her full love to the child. When the child later on grows, it feels tremendous attraction towards its mother. Tremendous attraction. That's the force of love. In the same way, father also, how he takes care of the child in every respect, to raise the child, how much he struggles, how much the parents struggle so hard to see their children come up gloriously. But later on, the children should remember how much they have sacrificed They're everything for our sake. Without expecting anything from us. If you don't expect anything in return for what you have done, that is called pure love. That is a glimpse of true form of love. So in order to have the taste of true love of God, you must become associated with holy company. It generates that form of love. Sri Ramakrishna tells, your spiritual progress is measured by your love of God. That means love of God is a sure sign of spiritual progress. Make the whole world your own through love. Let there be none outside the pale, none your enemy. If you have to cherish the purest form of love, you should be free from egotism. Egotism is like a poison. It spoils the milk of love. So you have to be very careful when you are cherishing the goal of love towards God, how important it is that you should be free from ego totally. Drive away such foreign ideas as enmity. Let the whole world become one through love. So, when love arises in the heart, joy fills it. So, finally, be humble, be selfless. Then you will become a true lover of God. That's how. To fulfill all these prayers which I just mentioned, he has come with specific mission of uplifting the humanity, showing the path to God. So for the first time he is making people aware that seeing God was not difficult. And he gave instructions how one could see God, talk to him, communicate with him. So, he has come to show us the practical way, not simply theorizing, not simply giving doctrines, but whatever Sri Ramakrishna has said, everything is practical. Every bit of it is practical. So